Hello, today I will be answering the 5 questions you listed below. The first question is, do you believe the Civil War is inevitable? I believe that the Civil War was not inevitable at all. I mean, for example, can we talk about bleeding Kansas? In Kansas, everything was out of control. I think it was reported that 250 people ended up losing their life. Everything was getting aggressive. People just for commonly expressing how you felt back in the day, that was literally blasphemy. Like, no way you just did that. I think people's houses were getting burnt down. I think it was a senator that was supporting anti-slavery. He got hit. He got beat. Like, a senator was getting beat. Like, somebody who's supposed to have, who's supposed to be very powerful, you should never disrespect in that kind of manner. He's getting beat. So it was just shown that, with words, nothing was working, The whole reason that Bleeding Kansas had became a big ordeal was because the governor, I think it was the governor, gave popular sovereignty to the state. Was like, you guys get to pick if it's anti or pro-slavery, and nobody can, not with words. This just was not getting, nothing was getting resolved with just words. So I do believe that the Civil War was not inevitable. I feel like it was, it helped really mold, the future of America. What were the 3 main issues that led to the Civil War? I mean, a lot of people cannot say that it was not about slavery. I mean, slavery was literally the biggest issue that people were like, no, it wasn't. Yes, it was. It was slavery. That was the biggest issue. People wanted to abolish slavery, and people in the North wanted to abolish slavery, and people in the South wanted to keep slavery. The other reason was the southern states wanted to govern themselves. They wanted, to make their own rules and have to really follow the federal government. They believed that the federal government had too much power. They did not have too much power. Literally, in my opinion, they did not. And they had different. They saw the future of America completely different. The North wanted to expand, and and wanted to expand and grow differently. They wanted to be more urbanized, but the South wanted to stay, how it was. They liked everything how it was at the moment. They were like, no, we don't need to change anything. America is perfect as it was. It was not perfect as it was. They were just, really abusing the slaves and getting everything they wanted and everything they can out of the slaves. Like, no need for it. Life is perfect for us, but only for them. It wasn't perfect for anybody else who was not a white man, a white rich man. But yeah, I believe those are 3. Economic reasons too. The same will go to the last one. Economic reasons. I think so. It was slavery. The South believed there was too much control with the federal government. And third one is, they just had different ways they saw America expanding. They had their own path that they believed that America should be. Question number 3. Do you believe Abraham Lincoln was a good president? There's a lot of talks of people saying he was a bad president, but everything bad that man has done is completely wiped clean. That man freed the slave. He abolished slavery. I think they say like America was like 1/8, like 1/3% slave. Like, literally almost all America was just slaves. I think it was 1/8. What life is that? But yes, I believe he's an amazing president because then he managed to get rid of one of the biggest burdens and one of the worst things that America could have ever I don't know how the word is, had ever faced, people of color ever faced. Me, in my opinion, I love you, President Lincoln, because I know damn well I am a woman of color, I am a Hispanic woman. If slavery was around back then, I would have been targeted. I would have been, a slave. I would have been, also I'm a woman, because also Abraham Lincoln, he helped, set the stage for women's rights. So yeah, I believe he was an amazing president. I mean, everything he did kind of just glasses off, because he freed the slaves. Also, he was a really strong president. He held it down. I wrote it down. He held it down. Like, imagine America is literally crumbling. America, many states are, no, I forgot what the word called is, but many states were leaving the union. We're like, no, we don't want to be here. War was, everybody was like, no. Everybody was extremely outraged. Imagine somebody being so outraged that now and then, instead of doing anything, they leave the whole state. They decided, the government be like, you know what? I don't like you, Abraham Lincoln. We're just gonna, leave America and form our own place. The Confederacy, I feel like that's crazy. That man must have been so stressed. He must have gone in with a full head of black hair, came out with white hair because of what? I mean, he held it down, in my opinion. He held it down beautifully. He was able to, maintain order. How do you maintain order when that much chaos is going on? But yeah, that's why I do believe he was a very good and strong president. Yeah, I mean, he was a good president because he helped preserve America when it was in such a fragile place at the time. What role did women play during the Civil War? Some women, were nurses. They would help out the soldiers during the war. I believe they're the backbone. They would help out, men a lot. I mean, there's a lot of casualties, so, there must have been a lot of aid. So, yeah, many women would help out the soldiers during the war. Some women were writers. There's actually this one woman, that kind of, I forgot her name, so sorry. There's one woman that, wrote this book, and it kind of, helped people see that slavery was bad. It helped show, the dark sides of slavery, which I believe, slavery is dark. There's no dark sides of it. But, that played a huge role during the anti-slavery and slavery war. Oh, look, slavery is bad. Maybe we should go against it. It did help. And also, it helped women's credibility. That, wow, a woman wrote this beautiful piece. People thought women were, peanut brains, walnut brains. They couldn't do anything for themselves. So forth, this whole ordeal that happens, since the women had to take the men's role. The women had to step up and do everything the man had to do. Someone went to work, worked at factories. And it kind of really helped change the social roles of women. They saw that women were, they could do stuff, So, hey, these women can actually do something. They're not just, housewives. They aren't just home, looking pretty. They can do more than, what they have. They can do more. So, this kind of really set the stage for women's civil rights. This whole ordeal did set the stage for women. And later on, the women's suffrage movement would happen, and it would change the course of history. Last question: what happened to African Americans during the Civil War? Well, a good amount of the people in Africa that were, African American during the Civil War, they were slaves. And the Civil War was kind of the war to try to abolish slavery. So a lot of slaves, were signing up. No, let me go to the union and let me fight for my rights. My time has finally came. Let me fight for my rights. And they were, I think they said it was they were 10% of Union troops. But I also heard that, some other African Americans, they were slaves in the South. So they weren't really, able to do much. It was frowned upon. Like, what the... But yeah. At the end of the day, you know, you could be helping out and still be seen terribly, you know. Sadly, a lot of the troops that were there, they were treated terribly. I mean, we know, what is it, like I said, like 100 years ago, there was still a bunch of segregation. Let me go back to like 70 years ago. They faced segregation, they faced aggression, they received lower paid, like terrible food. You know, they were like, what are these people doing here? The whole reason we're having a war is because it's these people. Do they really deserve this whole war for them? That's kind of the thing. It just had a lot of discrimination against them. There's a lot of people were taking it up on them. You know, taking their anger out, like, oh. Yeah, I mean, imagine, I couldn't think of how it must have been a soldier back in those days. Like, imagine being an African-American soldier. I feel like it must have been terrible for them. But, you know, at the end of the day, it must have been terrible. But they got freed. You know, that was one of the first big... Not the first. It was, yeah, the first. But the biggest step for African-Americans in America that they had ever accomplished. You know, they were free men. They were, you know, their own person now. You know, they didn't have to, you know, I don't know what the word is, but they didn't have to, you know, call on anybody else. They had control. They had their own control. But yes, you know, they got freed. So that was the role they played. I think I'm done. I feel like this is way over 5 minutes. You know, you understand how much I care for these topics. I really have learned a lot. It's very empowering also. But yes, thank you.